Hello and welcome to another episode of Critiquing the Critics, now with 30% less humor. Today's subject, WiiViewer. Now, in my line of fake work, people are constantly asking me to review their favorite reviewers. Spoony definitely got the most requests, so logic would indicate that Linkara would be in second place. Shockingly, no. The second most requested reviewer I've had since starting Critiquing the Critics is WiiViewer. This was enough to get my curiosity, but who is this WiiViewer, if that is his real name? Well, I'd hope that he reviews games for the Wii system, because the alternate interpretation of that title is a little on the weird side. Not that that would stop me from watching it. So obviously the WiiViewer reviews Wii games, which includes Virtual Console and WiiWare, and more recently the Wii-U. He prefers covering lesser-known labels, having a soft spot for party games, although this isn't exclusive. For those who believe the only way to popularity is anger and profanity, you obviously aren't aware of the WiiViewer. He acquired a sizable fanbase even though his videos are neutral and family-friendly. He had my curiosity. Now he has my attention. So I suppose to honor his divergence from the norm, I must wash out my mouth with soap. I too shall avoid cursing, but as you may know, I have a bit of a potty mouth. So I'm going to replace all naughty language with a variation of snugs. I can already tell that this running gag is going to be pretty snug and stupid. And FYI, it took like 4 hours to come up with that line, so laugh. Now that we know who he is, let's bring up the reviewer Triforce and break him down. Even though it could be argued that the main priority is humor, I believe the primary emphasis is the information. Actually, this isn't going to be very easy to describe as he doesn't follow a straight set of rules. Sometimes he can be more comical, other times he can be more clinical. Confined to a running time that rarely goes beyond 5 minutes, he'll briefly discuss the setup, how the game works, and whether or not it's any good. So while he will talk about the physics, graphics, gameplay, snuggle pop, story, whatever, don't expect anything deep or analytical. What I do appreciate is that even if the critiquing is minimal, he's able to use that time effectively and cover all of the relevant snugging points. This is important because different games have different priorities. He won't judge the new Super Mario Bros. Wii-U the same way he would the last story, which is how it should be done. Now sometimes, and I stress sometimes, this backfires. You can generally tell when the games don't provide him with very much to say. In these cases, he does become very snug and repetitive. He also has the tendency to attack popular games, which will infuriate the snugging fanbase, causing him to do a re-review so he can update his opinions. Now, anybody who follows my work knows how much I hate re-reviews. I can't even say that with a straight face, can I? He isn't retconning his claims as much as he's clarifying what he meant, but with a lot of these games, he should have seen the backlash coming and maybe prepared himself. A good review does not need to be remade.
But MartialHorror, don't you do re-reviews too?
Yes, but that was the joke. Why am I talking to my sock again? But I think the key to his success is the pacing. I'm not referring to the editing, which would belong in the technical section and is fine but unspectacular. I'm placing this with the info because it comes down to the content. He'll spend the right amount of time on something, then move on. Well, when he's not doing that redundancy thing that I mentioned earlier. Probably could have placed that in a better spot. While yes, I do appreciate the short length of his videos, keeping my interest really comes down to the pace. He paces his reviews very well, which is one of the main reasons he gets a positive arrow pointing up. The snug is that? That is the weakest looking arrow I have ever seen. That's more like it. That is a manly arrow, clearly representing me. But it's, I don't know, a bit too straight. I don't like where this joke is going, so we're just going to stick with the straight arrows for this review. Here is a clip that I think represents his info and critiquing abilities pretty well. Although, let me warn you, it is longer than what I usually show. Which I guess, when you think about it, is pretty ironic when you consider that the WiiViewer's web show is shorter than the majority of reviewers whom I've covered in the past. But Okay, let's see the clip.
Now there are 8 games to play. Ping pong, skill ball, water gun shooting, mini golf, air hockey, basketball, football, and baseball. Each of these are played using the touchscreen on the gamepad. They're a bit hit and miss when the controls will work right. The problem is that it never felt like you were controlling the action. I would swipe up to throw a ball, but it didn't feel like I had the control on how far it would go. There was no sense of power in my throw. Basketball was almost unplayable because the thing would be a moving target, and football to a lesser degree, but at least the targets weren't too hard to hit. Ping pong wasn't much better. They don't even show you the paddle. You just swipe when the ball comes at you. The paddle should have been there so we could see the angles that were hitting the ball. Now skill ball didn't even have any skill in it at all. Just swipe in the same direction with the same amount of force and you'll get a high score every time. The same can be said for baseball. While the pitches do change, the overall way of hitting it won't. Just swipe the same basic way and you'll get a high score. Now air hockey was a joke. The paddle stoppers were very loose to the touch. It was all about luck, and it can be a bit tough, until you realize that you could stomp on the puck and move it around and thrust it really fast using the stopper. After I learned that trick, the game was very easy to win.
On to the humor! As I've alluded to earlier, it varies from video to video. His review of Batman Arkham Asylum, for example, is a conventional critique, but Lit is a bit more comical. It just comes down to how much material the game gives him. The jokes tend to be hit or miss, as they can be a bit too drawn out or silly for my totally refined tastes. But he does have some golden reactions, and there are some good lines too. Every once in a while he'll appear on screen for a sketch, but usually he's just a voice, so don't expect much of that. But what redeems even the bad jokes is his unflagging energy. He sounds like he's having a lot of fun, and that is contagious. His funniest trait, though, is he's able to deliver information in a way that's naturally amusing, which keeps his videos from becoming too dry. So do you want to see a clip that showcases this strength? No? Well, too bad, here it is.
Now the developers did add one thing in for the Wii version, Wii motion controls. Here's the fun part about it. They don't tell you how to do them. It wasn't an omission, it was on purpose. They state quite arrogantly it's part of the puzzles of the game. This is the point where I have to say bullshit.
Whoa. That wasn't very family friendly. Let's see that clip again, but let's watch it done right.
They state quite arrogantly it's part of the puzzles of the game. This is the point where I have to say bull.
Snugs.
You don't do that. The Wii controls are already hit and miss with this game, let alone making you figure them out on your own. Opening the door is a good example. You hold the A button down and turn it counterclockwise and it opens the door. Most of the time. However, if you push the A button and turn it clockwise like I think normal people who open doors do, it won't work.
That's better. This is a kid's show. Here we do not cuss. I mean, snug. Are we done with this video yet? So I guess he gets a reluctant arrow pointing up. Hi there, little arrow. You look so cute. His line reading can be a little wooden, often due to him over-enunciating or not enunciating enough. But his conviction carries his words. He also has a pretty memorable voice. As with anyone with a noticeable voice, you might find him to be annoying, but I thought he was endearing and his voice contributed to that, even if he does sound a little bit like Mr. Slave. His kids, Little WiiViewer and Littlest WiiViewer, often make appearances and sometimes even co-review with him. Ah, snugs. Words cannot express the terror that formed in my bowels when I heard about this. I can't stand it when reviewers shoehorn in their friends or significant others, much less their kids. But surprisingly, they held their own.
This is the WiiViewer!
The Little WiiViewer! And the Littlest WiiViewer!
And we're gonna review
Wreck-It Ralph for the Wii.
Their interactions with the WiiViewer are consistently entertaining, and they even have some mad reviewing skills themselves. Maybe if they appeared in every video it would get old, I don't know, but there are enough solo reviews to where when he does make a co-review with his kids, I find myself enjoying them just as much. Their deliveries boost the info and comedy, so arrows reflect that. Now on to the technicals. Typical situation, bad production values slowly evolve into decent production values.
Kirby's First Adventure on the NES is a standard platformer with a lot of secrets to unlock.
Wow, your microphone is terrible in this review. It sounds like you're recording it with a tin can and a piece of string.
But honestly, I don't care. His format doesn't require anything flashy, and the clips at least usually have something to do with what he's saying. Otherwise, I can hear him clearly and his camcorder is acceptable, so happy arrow. Now the real question is, how would I rate him? I'd probably say 3 out of 4 stars. This is one of those cases where I doubt I'd really watch his videos if it weren't for me doing critiquing the critics. I'm not a big enough user of the Wii to really care about his subject, and his execution, while amicable, is unremarkable. I did enjoy his works, but there isn't anything I consider to be exceptional about them. I'd only really recommend him to people who play with their Wiis. But even if you have a different system and he looks like he might be entertaining based on what I've shown you, go ahead and watch one of his videos anyway. After all, worst case scenario, you've wasted 3 to 5 minutes. That's not a lot of time, and best case scenario, you've added somebody else to your subscription list. If you'd like to watch his reviews, his videos can be found on his YouTube channel. He also has a website for frequently asked questions and a separate page for his uncut vids. Be sure to check out my website. No, it's not a porn site. My webmaster was just really messed up. Follow me on Twitter where you could hear me say lots of wacky things, and go snug yourselves. My name is MartialHorror, and I'm here to tell you that those who cannot do, critique.